At the family reunion in front of 52 people, my mom raised her glass, pointed at my sister, and said, "This is the daughter who's always loved us." The other one, "She's never lifted a finger. I covered their mortgage and paid their bills for 9 years. I smiled and left." The next morning, I had 38 missed calls. The reunion was already in full swing when I walked into the lodge. Red check tablecloths, buffet trays steaming, toddlers weaving between chairs with juice boxes. Someone had dragged a speaker onto the porch and was blasting Fleetwood Mac loud enough to rattle the windows. It was messy, loud, familiar. But for the first time in a long time, I actually let myself hope. People smiled when I said hello. Someone offered me sangria. I spotted my dad near the far table laughing like he just remembered how, and I thought, maybe this will be fine. Maybe it won't be perfect, but at least no one will cry in the car this year. My sister Marin was circling the room in a white sundress, barefoot, glowing like a commercial for lemon bars. She was holding a frame wrapped in tissue paper, tied with a little ribbon. I didn't think much of it. I'd brought a gift, too, a reservation for our parents at the fancy French place they always talk about, but never actually go to. Tucked it under their dinner plate before they sat down. That's how the night was supposed to go. Quiet gestures, shared food, a few awkward hugs, nothing big. But then Marin stood up. Someone handed her a microphone. Why? I'll never know. And she gave this sweet little laugh like, "Oh gosh, I didn't plan to say anything," which meant she'd rehearsed it for days. "Sorry to interrupt," she said, and clapped her hands twice like she was calling kindergarten to order. "I just have a little something for our amazing parents." She turned, held out the frame, and handed it to our mom. It was a collage. Photos of the three of them, vacations, birthdays, random selfies on the porch. No space for me, not even on the edges. My mom blinked, then smiled. She stood up slowly, raised her glass, and said, "This is the daughter who's always loved us." A few people clapped. Someone let out a little awe. Then she added louder now, "The other one, she's never lifted a finger." The room went quiet. Someone coughed. A fork dropped. I didn't look around, but I could feel it. The confusion, the shift, the sudden need to pretend it hadn't been said. I didn't say anything, didn't cry. Didn't ask what the hell she thought I'd been doing all these years. I just picked up my bag, walked to the door, and left. No drama, no scene, no raised voice. Just this weird bone-deep clarity that if I stayed another second, I'd never be able to forget the sound of everyone not standing up for me. I drove home in silence. It was a 2-hour drive from the lodge where the reunion was held. No music, just the blur of highway lights and a quiet list forming in my head. How many times had I wired them money? How many bills had I paid so they could get through a rough month? How many birthdays had I skipped to work overtime so they could keep their house? I covered their mortgage. I paid their bills for 9 years, and in front of 52 people, I was erased. But fine, I smiled and left. 15 hours later, I had 38 missed calls. The next morning, I had 38 missed calls. They started coming in around 6:17 a.m., which felt bold considering no one cared where I went when I walked out the night before. The first few were from my mom, then a couple from Dad, then my favorite detail, 14 from Marin. 14. The girl who hasn't called me in months unless she needed help with her taxes suddenly turned into a telemarketer. I made coffee, sat on the edge of the kitchen counter, and just stared at my phone screen as it kept lighting up. Eventually, I picked up. Not because I was feeling generous, but because I was curious how they'd open this one. Oh, thank God. Marin said, "We didn't know where you went." "Are you okay?" I sipped. "I'm great." "Well, we can't get on the boat." "What boat?" she huffed. "The group tour, the little sightseeing cruise they were doing this morning. We showed up and they said it was canceled. Something about a card declined." "Ah, that's it." Well, the card on file was mine, and I canceled it. There was a long pause. I could hear her blinking through the silence. "But why?" she said. "Mom and Dad are freaking out." "Because Mom stood up in front of 52 people and said I'd never lifted a finger," I said. "So I figured, why not make it true?" Another silence. "Okay, but the whole trip?" "Yep. Lodging, too. You canceled their cabin. It was in my name. They don't even have a way back." Well, then I guess you'll need to pay for their tickets. I don't have the money. That's okay. I said, You're the daughter who's always loved them. I'm sure they'll understand. And I hung up. I didn't feel proud. Not in the typical sense. No big, victorious swell in my chest. This felt still after 6 years of quietly wiring money, paying the mortgage, the electric, the groceries, the dentist bill that somehow became urgent every 6 months. Silence felt like the most honest response. They didn't even know how much I covered. Not really. And I never threw it in their faces. Never said, hey, just so you know, this trip you're all enjoying. I paid for that. I didn't need confetti or applause. I just wanted to be treated like I mattered. But apparently a framed photo collage from Marin mattered more. You want to know the worst part? I wasn't surprised. That moment, my mom lifting a glass and saying, This is the daughter who's always loved us. It didn't come out of nowhere. Came from years of this exact pattern. Marin was always the star, the performer, the creative one. She made the mixed CDs in high school and handwritten cards with glitter that got everywhere. They ate it up. I, meanwhile, was the reliable one, the steady one, the one who got a good job and moved 2 hours away. The one who paid down her student loans and helped Mom refinance the mortgage when Dad was too embarrassed to ask. They'd call her when they wanted someone to come visit. They'd call me when the water heater broke. She gave them time. I gave them money. Guess which one got better lighting? It wasn't always this lopsided. Back when we were kids, they used to think, You girls are so different, but both so special. That stopped around the time I turned 24 and started making enough to pay for things they couldn't. By then, Marin was between jobs more often than not, trying acting, then teaching yoga, then making jewelry. She lived with them for nearly a decade after college, rent-free. They used to say she was finding her way. I once paid their property tax so the house wouldn't go into default. You'd think that would have counted for something. And the thing is, I never asked for repayment. I didn't expect them to write me poems or post about me online, but standing there at the reunion, watching my mother praise Marin like she'd moved mountains while I was standing right there, I don't know. Something cracked. It was the way everyone nodded, the way no one seemed confused. That was what did it. No one blinked, because to them it made sense. Of course, it was Marin who'd always been there. Of course, I was the one who never lifted a finger. So when I got home, I opened my laptop and I started canceling. Every auto transfer, every standing order, mortgage support, gone. Groceries, done. The gas card I paid off every month, snipped. The account I used to wire them cash each time their furnace just stopped working again, closed. Even the dentist bill that was due the next day, I let it default. And it wasn't rage, it wasn't spite, it was clarity. If I was invisible, fine. But I wasn't going to pay for the privilege. I could have sent a message, explained everything. But they made their choice publicly. They got to live with the consequences privately. I didn't hear from them the next day. Not a single call, not a single text, which was almost cute because clearly someone had just told them to give her space. Like I was a toddler throwing a tantrum over snack options, not a woman who'd just been publicly erased in front of 52 people after funneling 6 years of financial lifeblood into a house I didn't live in. But sure, give her space. That'll do it. By Monday, they were home. I only knew because my dad's Facebook changed locations. Great weekend with family. We are so blessed. No mention of me, obviously, and still radio silence. I pictured them walking through the front door and realizing things felt a little different. Maybe the cable box wouldn't load. Maybe the thermostat flashed a low battery warning. Maybe the grocery delivery didn't show up. That the automatic bank transfer for the mortgage, which normally hit first thing, hadn't come through. I imagined my mom blinking at her phone bill, seeing it bounce back, then checking the gas bill, then the water, then the credit card that was in my name, the one they used just for emergencies but somehow kept buying concert tickets with. Fine. Not that I was spying, but I did happen to check my inbox and the alerts were already rolling in. Failed payment. Failed payment. Transfer declined. It was like watching dominoes fall, quietly, satisfyingly. They must have called the bank because that afternoon, the joint account I'd let them use for household expenses showed an attempted login from a new device. Twice. It locked itself after the second try. Oops. That night around 9:30, there was a knock on my door. I didn't open it right away. I just stood in the hallway, back flat to the wall, staring at the wood like it had eyes. Then I heard my mother's voice. Lauren. I opened the door. She looked tired. No makeup, wind-blown hair, one of those thin cardigans she wears when she wants to look fragile. My dad stood behind her, arms crossed, not angry, just there. "Can we come in?" she asked. "No," I said, "but we can talk here." She glanced around like she was embarrassed to be on my porch. "We just wanted to clear the air," she began. "I'm sure," I said. "What happened at the reunion?" "You mean when you stood up in front of 52 people and said I'd never lifted a finger?" That wasn't meant how it sounded. I tilted my head. It sounded pretty clear. "It was a moment," she said. "Maren had just given us that photo and everyone was watching, and she's been going through a hard time." "She always is." "She's trying," my mom said. "You know how much she struggles, and she just wanted to do something nice." "So you decided to announce she was the good daughter, and I was what, an afterthought?" "That's not fair." "No," I said. "What's not fair is paying over $150,000 toward your bills over the past 15 years and getting told I've never lifted a finger." Her face froze. My dad blinked. I hadn't planned to say it, but once it was out, I felt lighter, like letting go of something heavy. "That number's real, by the way," I added. I ran the math. Mortgage payments, utilities, groceries, surprise dental bills, the time I paid off Maren's credit card because she couldn't breathe from the stress. It adds up. "We never asked you to," my dad said finally. "No, you didn't," I agreed. "You just let me, year after year." A silence fell. My mom stared at the potted plant next to my door. My dad looked like he wanted to be somewhere else. Then she said, "So what? This is about money?" "No," I said. "It's about you standing in front of everyone and calling me invisible, and expecting me to keep acting like I'm not." "But we didn't think you'd take it so personally." I laughed. "Well, here we are." That's when she softened her voice. The shift. "We just want to fix this," she said. "We love you." "Then maybe you should have said that instead of rewriting the last 15 years of your life with a speech and a photo frame." She nodded like she accepted that, but then she said, "Maren didn't mean to hurt you." "She didn't say it, you did." More silence. Eventually, I said, "If you came here to ask for help with the house, I'm not the right daughter anymore." And then I closed the door. 2 days later, Maren showed up. She rang the bell twice like she was in a rush. When I opened it, she didn't wait for an invite. She just walked in like it was still 2012 and she was borrowing my heels without asking. "Do you know what you're doing to them?" she asked. I shut the door calmly. "You'll have to be more specific." "They're panicking. They said the mortgage is due in 3 days and they don't have enough." "Huh. You didn't even warn them." I raised an eyebrow. "You mean after Mom stood up in front of 52 people and said I'd never done anything for them?" She rolled her eyes. "She got caught up in the moment." "Then let the moment pay the bills." "You're being spiteful." "No," I said. "I'm being factual. You all said I never helped. I'm just adjusting my behavior to match." "They don't have the money." "You live with them." She blinked. "You don't pay rent. You don't cover utilities. But you do have time to make collage gifts and post about Self-Care Sunday." "That's not fair." Neither was the speech. Maren looked like she wanted to scream, but she was smart enough to know it wouldn't help. "They're our parents," she said finally. "You're just going to let them struggle?" "No," I said. "I'm going to let you step up. You're the daughter who always loved them, remember?" And for the first time, I saw her falter. Just a flicker, a little twitch in the corner of her mouth, a crack in the mask. "They need help. Then get a job." She turned and walked out without another word. That night, I slept better than I had in months, not because anything was resolved, not because they'd apologized, but because for once, I wasn't the one holding everything up, and I wasn't lifting a finger. They went public. Started with a Facebook post, my mom's, obviously. A smiling group photo from the reunion captioned, "Family means everything, even when some people forget that." Then came the comments. "She walked out because your speech upset her." I mean, it wasn't even rude, you just said the truth. If someone gets offended just for hearing the truth, maybe there's a reason. Nobody said my name. They didn't have to. 52 people heard the quote. Most of them were on Facebook. All of them saw the photo. A few distant cousins commented with crying face emojis. One posted a vaguely religious meme about forgiveness. No one asked what I'd been doing for the last decade and a half. No one asked why the sightseeing boat and the cabin and the group dinner all magically vanished when I left. I wasn't tagged, but I saw it. A mutual sent me a screenshot with a shrug emoji. For a while I said nothing. Let them talk. But then someone posted, "She was always kind of cold, right? Not really involved." And my mom liked it. So I replied, one post, No snark, no commentary, just screenshots, bank statements, confirmation emails, wire transfers, rent checks, texts confirming receipt. The final total was spelled out at the bottom, just in case someone's thumb got tired scrolling. Over the years, $48,600 toward their mortgage, $35,760 in household bills, $21,240 in groceries, $70 in medical costs, prescriptions, copays, $6,850 when the roof caved in, $17,950 for Marin's tuition, $1,810 for a car transmission repair last winter, $2,300 for a canceled family trip deposit, and a dozen smaller things I stopped keeping track of, altogether measured $47.80. I didn't tag anyone. I just posted it, left it public, then closed the app and went to bed. By morning, the original post was gone. So were 3 others that had tried to defend it. And then came the text from my aunt. I had no idea you'd done all that. You've always been so quiet about it. From my cousin James. That's insane. If I were you, I'd never speak to them again. From my mother, nothing. But from Marin, we need to talk. The next time I saw her, she had dark circles under her eyes and a reusable grocery bag in her hand. She looked 10 pounds lighter, and not in a good way. Can we talk? She said. No, hello? I stepped aside. She walked in like it wasn't her first time. They made me get a job, she said, just like that, like she was reporting a war crime. Welcome to adulthood. I'm serious, Lauren. So am I. She dropped the bag on the counter. It had canned soup and ramen, a few off-brand paper towels, no produce. They said I had to help now because you're gone, and you're the one who made everything work, apparently. Her voice cracked halfway through. They said that. She blinked, realizing what she just admitted. I mean, not like that, but they're struggling. They chose you, Marin, at the reunion, in front of everyone. You were the daughter who'd always loved them. I was just trying to be nice. I didn't know Mom was going to say that. And you didn't correct her. I was caught off guard. No, I said, you liked it. She didn't deny it. They need help, she said. Then help them. I can't afford everything. I looked at her, really looked at her. The messy hair, the wrinkled shirt, the 2 thin arms. She wasn't sleeping. She wasn't eating. She was unraveling. Try harder, I said. And I closed the door behind her. They showed up together this time. My mom, my dad, and Marin, shoulders slumped like kids outside the principal's office. They didn't knock at first, just stood at the bottom of my porch steps until I noticed them through the window. I opened the door but didn't invite them in. We're sorry, my mom said, voice small, older than I remembered. My dad didn't speak. Marin looked done. She didn't even pretend to smile. Her eyes were hollow, not angry, just tired. We shouldn't have said what we said, my mom went on. It was stupid. We didn't think. No, I said. You did think. You just didn't think it would cost you anything. She looked down. It was in the moment. Marin said, you know how Mom gets, and I liked hearing it. That's on me. I know, but we didn't mean it. My mom added, not really. I nodded. Doesn't matter now. You made a choice. You need to understand. No, I said. You need to understand. You told 52 people that I'd never lifted a finger for this family, while I was still paying your mortgage, your bills, while my name was on your insurance, your utilities, your everything. I paid $147,080 to be erased. They said nothing. And now, I said, you get to live with that. My mom swallowed. My dad looked away. Marin stared at her shoes. Silence. I waited for a fight, a tearful plea. But there was nothing. Just 3 people who finally realized what they'd lost. I'm not angry anymore, I said. I'm just done. And I closed the door. A few months later, I heard Marin moved out. She lasted longer than I thought, but in the end, it was too much. The bills, the errands, the late-night calls, it caught up to her. She found a smaller place farther away and didn't leave a forwarding address. Not long after, my parents sold the house. The one I helped them keep afloat for 9 years. The one they said I'd never lifted a finger to save. They took what they could get and downsized fast. Now they're in a rental with thin walls and flickering lights. I know because my cousin drove past. I never went back. Not because I'm angry, because I'm done. Some people think family is forever. Others learn the hard way. It's conditional. Did I go too far or not far enough? Leave a comment and subscribe.